And then we get two scenes which are very well. One is completely devoid of dialogue, and the other one has very little. So we got the slow close up of Londo on the ship, which is one of the finest Jurassic moments without any dialogue.
Mm.
Um, there's just such a complexity of emotions going on with that, isn't there, Baz?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell it from Jurassic's point of view because when I interviewed him for my book, the book I wrote, I might mention it.
Are
But
You
you
yeah,
have a
jealous?
book?
I read a book about B5. But anyway, I was talking to him about this scene, and what happened was Michael Vehar, knowing that Peter Jurasik himself is quite a social person, likes to chat to the cast and crew, and bit like Lon, there was a lot of energy to him. He wanted to get a sense of isolation, so he put him up on this box in the corner of the set away from the cast and crew for about an hour before they shot. So Peter Jurasik was completely isolated from everyone else on the cast and crew. So when it came to film that scene, that shot of him looking out over Narn, that really came across that sense of isolation
Mm.
and loss and disconnect from everything else around him. So it's a beautiful story that Jurassic told, and I think it really comes across. And I think Vehar was possibly kind of cruel, but also kind of brilliant in a way that he kind of set that scene up. But
That's why he's the best director on B5.
that's why he does because he just isolates the
Yeah.
cast and makes them miserable. But yeah, I mean, everything about that scene, again, the music, and when you see those dust clouds rising over Narn as the mass drives attack, and then it zooms into Londo, and it's a brilliant shot. It's so good that shot of him. They use it twice. They use it in the third season, and they use it again in the fourth season. The one mirrored with the kind of the ship kind of come in the reflection of Londo as well. Just
Mm.
beautifully done as well. I mean, I love all the choices taken with the space battle effects in this episode as well. But yeah, you really get a sense of Londo is damned, Londo is lost. He is, this is the glory of the Centauri Empire that he was raving about and raging to Morden about in Signs of Importance, and this is the outcome, and it breaks him, and probably rightly so. Seeing the Narn bombed the Stone Age, it is absolutely devastating. It is one of the most heartbreaking moments of the episode, possibly one of the heartbreaking moments of the entire show. And we haven't got to Jakarta's speech yet. And yeah, it's all about the look that Jurassic gives and the music. The music is so impactful in this scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, Brandy?
Yeah, everything that Baz already said, basically. I didn't know the story about Peter
No, I
Jurassic
didn't.
being isolated. That's amazing. Would have loved to be a fly on the wall for that interview because I think he's amazing. Um, I'm saying a lot today. I forgive me, folks. I it's a very powerful scene, and Peter Jurassic's portrayal of Londo is magnificent because words are great. Words are great. It can communicate very easily what you're
Mm.
thinking, what you're feeling. But to have an actor who can do that without speaking and
Mm,
without being ridiculously over the top in
Yeah,
facial expressions, it's so subtle. And yet at the same time, you know exactly what he's thinking and what he's feeling
mm.
in that moment. And it's spectacular how good he is.
Yeah. It's amazing. You can kind of, you can kind of see that he knows this was inevitable. He knows this is what's going to happen. Um, and he's owning he's kind of, I think it's not owning the guilt, but he's realizing the guilt that this is all of his doing. Even though Reef has given the order, everything that's come before is kind of his fault. Um, and it's one of the best images of power is isolation.
yeah.
Um, and this is going to be kind of mirrored at the end of the episode where he's sat in his quarters, the lights dimmed, watching the news, and he's completely alone. There's not even, he's not even joined by Name escapes
Veer.
me. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Veer, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Veer's completely absent in this
Yeah,
episode,
he's
which is quite
completely
surprising.
absent. Yeah, he's completely absent this episode. So that again, that really exaggerates Londo's isolation in this episode. And then we've got well, not in contrast, but to kind of mirror that is Jakar's slow walk into Sheridan's office, which I find just really moving. Any thoughts on that
Agree.
bit? And then like his words as well.
Well, he's told by associates on Narn and the things going off in the background, the drivers going off in the background that you hear but you don't see. And uh this Narn that he's talking to says, I'm now going to ask you to do the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do.
Mm,
And when I watched this the first time, I'm like, he's gonna ask for asylum. He has to. He has to. And so they call it sanctuary in this episode, which is also, it's basically the same thing.
mm,
And that when how hard it is for him to have to do that, how hard it is knowing that his people are dying, that his planet is dying. He wants to come back. He wants to fight. He wants to participate. He wants to help. And they say, no, you need to stay where you are and you need to ask for sanctuary. You don't see that part of it, that conversation. You just see Jakar walking in and you know
mm,
immediately that he's going to ask for sanctuary, asylum, whatever term you want to use. And it's like he's fighting every word
Mm.
coming out of his mouth. And
oh,
it's
Andreas is
just
superb.
so good. He's so good at everything, everything. He just embodies this character like nothing I've ever seen before or since. He's Jakar. That's all it is.
Mm,
And it's not just the makeup. It's not in any of that. It's also his movement, the way he speaks, the way he uses his eyes. All of these things just make you believe that this character is who he is, period. That's it.
Mm.
mm.
There is no man in the costume, in the makeup. No, this is just Jakar.
Yeah.
And so watching him walk into Sheridan and say what he has to say, it's like he has to force the words out.
He
Yeah.
It's
does.
that hard.
I say when he says I've been instructed to ask for, he pauses, the word sanctuary gets stuck in his throat.
Yeah.
He cannot say it. Jakar is such a prideful character. He has such a sense of identity in who he is. And this goes against every fiber of his being to do this. And you actually this I mean this episode is why probably Jakar is my favorite, one of my favorite characters of all time, fictional in any kind of medium, because he just conveys everything about that in this episode. He is not Andreas Katsulas in makeup playing Nana. He is. You're absolutely right, Brad. He is Jakar, and you absolutely get that. You understand where he's coming from. You understand what he's thinking, what he's doing, what he's saying, everything. You completely buy everything about that performance.